Okay. After a good amount of setup, looks like we can start going. Let me tell you a little bit about what's been happening since I was on stream last. So today, my goal is essentially to start getting into my configuration.nix file. Actually, this is relevant to what I had done in the last couple days. I spent some amount of time reading and some amount of time trying to play with some settings, and eventually came across two things that I think are important for NixOS. One is Home Manager, and the other are Nix flakes. So I'll show you just what my my Etsy looks like at the moment. So if I cd into Etsy NixOS, then I've got a configuration.nix file, a flake.lock file, a flake.nix file, and a hardware configuration .nix and a home.nix. So flake, lock, and flake nix, these are part of my new flake setup. And then hardware, that's from you know, just the original scan when setting up the laptop. And then home.nix, that's for Home Manager. So my understanding is that I can monitor my configuration using this flake.nix file. So at the moment it just has description. It's going to be monitoring my config. Inputs, so pointing to the Nix packages, GitHub URL, and then also Home Manager, pointing to this Nix Community Home Manager release for the stable version of Nix, which I'm on. And then we have outputs. So so far I'm just loading these modules, my configuration and my Home Manager. If I go into these, so my home file, it actually doesn't have anything except for SSH, so I can SSH into Git. A little bit of a, here's my name, username, and email for Git, and then I have some thing about bash also in this file. So if I go into the last one, configuration.nix, kind of show you what this looks like. It looks like we have systemd boot, EFI, this is just bootloader, kernel, network settings, enabling the flakes feature, and I switched to KDE Plasma, which you can see in the background probably. So I was on GNOME before, now I'm on Plasma. And interestingly, the settings for Plasma are a lot more nuanced. So it's interesting to me. For example, you can see that my capture card now looks like the taskbar. So this is actually where my laptop screen terminates, but the capture card is displaying to an external monitor, which has some extra width. And then the resolution on the external monitor, it actually stops somewhere around here, but my laptop screen actually goes on for a little bit. So they're like overlaying. Whereas on GNOME, it seemed like it was just actually mirroring completely the display. But I don't plan on staying with KDE for very long. I just was getting a little bit tired with how some things were interacting in GNOME. So for example, like the scroll speed was just kind of crazy to me. The scaling on some things was also a little bit off, where like my text was hard to read. That isn't the worst thing in the world, but KDE Plasma, at least for the defaults, looks much more usable. I don't think I have really any packages, so my user doesn't have any packages enabled. I'm not sure how this now is interacting with my home manager. To some extent, I don't know what actually declaring a package in here would do versus my home manager. I want to enable Hyperland though, so that's kind of the goal for today. Switch out some of these things. So I started looking into a bunch of different programs or packages that I want to add in order to use Hyperland on this laptop. And I'm a little bit just totally unaware of most of the environment that Hyperland gives you. So even like I tried enabling Hyperland a couple days ago, and you kind of just are there with nothing, right? So you have to add in things like a bar in order to have kind of this little taskbar at the top. Things like battery display, that's something that you have to enable with an external package if you're using Hyperland. And so I want to start getting to the point where I have some of these things enabled, and then I have their configurations managed in Home Manager. Maybe. I haven't figured out actually how exactly I want to have the whole thing set up. So I kind of think that it would be nice to have, I kind of think that it would be nice to have Home Manager take care of some things like my NeoVim config. That's one thing that I actually want Home Manager to take care of. The system itself, like how Waybar is going to display it or where it's going to be, what color it's going to be. And also, I want like the file manager, so if I hit super, just like a box opens up in the middle of my screen that has kind of some things I can go through. That stuff, I'm actually not sure if I'm going to manage that with my config.nix file or my Flake or Home Manager yet. I don't know about that. Going through here, I'm actually a little bit confused by the users. One second. Okay, so I'm a little bit confused about the difference between, so at the moment, like, home manager, I've got a home.username, ONM, and a home directory. And I'm a little bit confused on, so... So this just constructs a user account, I'm pretty sure, in my file tree, is what I'm gonna guess. So if I were to go to home, I have my user. But then home.username, this might just point, this might just tell home manager actually which user is using this home manager, which is kind of what I think might be true. So I didn't exactly look at the home manager documentation before enabling it. I think kind of what's been happening is, like, I've tried using some I tried doing some configuration to just my NeoVim, so just editing like a config file, and then realized, because I was using Kickstart, that Mason, the program that installs and regulates the LSPs, it actually can't operate on NixOS just because of it installs to a certain file or directory that isn't really enabled in NixOS. So my system doesn't go there to look for programs or packages. I think maybe something like that. So then I thought, okay, so I have to kind of do the whole config from scratch anyways. Might as well try to use home manager, that way it's at least reproducible. One second.
Going crazy? You're going crazy?
There's some amount of it's probably my cat is bored, but he's going a little bit stir crazy, which is definitely super distracting. So that might just happen. Yeah. All right. What else happened? So I kind of got home manager because I figured I had to go through all these configs anyways. And then flakes were something that was a little bit different. I'm honestly still not completely shit. Cancel, quit. I'm honestly still not completely sold on the necessity of flakes, but I think that something that is true is I can see the benefit. So apparently flakes are useful in the sense that they kind of group a lot of the dependencies or derivations, the things that will create dependencies, together in a structured way. So it's often the case that when you go and look for just like programs that people have made or setups that people have, they're using flakes in some kind of way. I think that doesn't mean that you can't use just the native config file and editing that. So going back to flake. But essentially what happens is you specify inputs and outputs in these flakes, and when your kind of packages are looking for their dependencies or for things that they need to install in order to actually install a given package, then or to build something, apparently flakes allows kind of the underlying algorithm to find and produce things in a predictable way. So there's some native functionality in NixOS, or maybe it's just the Nix language for doing this. For example, if you wanted to install something on your computer, you can use, so like in a user account, you can use nixenv, nix-env. But apparently, because this kind of goes through attribute sets looking for given attributes, there can be some overlap between what it finds and some other stuff. So I'm not totally sure why it's not recommended not to use this nixenv command. I did look at, there's a blog that explains it on how, to some extent, it doesn't operate in the way that you'd think it should. And I'm just going to trust that that's true. So we're going to use this experimental feature in order to try to get our system set up. Instead of using the nixenv command to essentially download ephemeral programs onto our computer. So for example, I kind of think that NeoVim is more ephemeral. Like, it's a user-defined thing. So like, I don't think that on my system NeoVim should kind of be a base setting. But since this is a laptop, it doesn't really matter. I'm the only one that's going to be using this laptop. But if I wanted to use it as like a user setting only, what I could try doing is going to my user account and then doing nixenv NeoVim or whatever, installing NeoVim. And that would go and try to find some NeoVim package and install that. And there's apparently some amount of problems that you can run into when you say like try to install different versions of things or upgrade or whatever. Okay, so that's kind of all the background to get us to where we're currently. I did follow some amount of so like I didn't look through the documentation for flakes or for Home Manager in any amount of like excruciating detail. There's a ton of guides online for just how to set up a base flake that will manage your configuration, or a base flake that allows you to use Home Manager. And that's kind of what I was looking at. So today I just kind of want to go through and find things in order to get Hyperland working on my computer. And that's like the main goal, I think. So what's the control version that we should do for this? I have I have in documents. Nope. In system, I made a system directory. So this is kind of the same NixOS configuration that I currently have, and this one's managed with Git. At least worst case scenario is that we can always revert by just copying one of these files into the etc/NixOS directory. And then if we mess anything up, aside from the fact that we can always revert and then copy one of these things over. So that's where we're at. I haven't thought too hard about this at the moment, but I kind of want another directory that's like what I want my configuration to be as I'm working on it. So that way I can, so let me just do this. I don't know if this is the best way to do this, or if there's like a more slick way to do it. I think it actually doesn't matter. I think the way that, okay, maybe it does matter. I think that the way that NixOS works is that I can just start editing my configuration. Every time I do rebuild, it will just try to build the system. And if there's an error, then I can always load into a previous configuration and then go from there. So I really just need, like one version of my configuration just in case, and then I think as I'm editing, the configuration will still look the same even if I've built a system which is kind of non-functional and loaded into a previous configuration which is functional. So I don't think it actually matters to create a new directory. So let's just start going. So the one thing that I have to ask is, we've got these modules. How are we going to do this in a way that's somewhat modular? I think I might just go into the configuration. I want to install a bunch of packages, so I'll probably just list them all there. And then if there was something in particular that I wanted to edit, for example, if I want to edit like my, so I'm going to install Waybar. If I want to edit like my Waybar config, maybe I make a, like a directory that will contain some Nix files, and then I'll tell Flake to basically import these Nix files as a module, and then the module will hopefully have the configuration in it, which will then tell my system what settings they should load with. So for now, let's just try to get some basic programs installed. So, right, this is read-only. You know, honestly, one thing that I want to do too is, like, I kind of almost would rather edit my NeoVim config before doing all the other stuff, because I'm going to be in NeoVim messing around for a long time, and it's annoying that, like, like the language servers aren't totally functional. Okay, it doesn't matter though. So let's see. I'm gonna basically hide this, and we're going to enable Wayland. And then we're also going to enable Hyperland, which is somewhere down the line. I kind of almost would rather have this be up a bit. Okay, and then what is needed to run Hyperland? The default on Hyperland comes with Kitty. So I think in order to do anything, we need to have Kitty. What we should do is... How come that one... interesting. To me. Okay. So one thing that I think would be useful is just... man, this looks all fucked up. Okay. So one thing that I think would be useful is I want to kind of go to a setup that's already configured with Hyperland and see some of the programs that they're using. So Omarchy is a Hyperland environment. It's like almost a desktop environment at this point, which is set up, I think, in a very nice way. And there's apparently some ports already over to NixOS from some people. So at this point, because we have Flake set up, we could pretty much copy kind of this, but let's see if we want to do that versus if we want to edit something ourselves first. So add this flake to your system configuration. You also need Home Manager. So Omarchy Nix would be an input. This shit is kind of fucking infuriating, honestly. Getting some of the sizing and things working. Yeah, it's basically nothing's working, but let's just ignore it because we're gonna go away from this in a minute. So modules, we'll have to look at the Omarchy Nix module. Home Manager. I specified some basic configuration options to help you get started with the initial setup, as well as some simple overrides for common configuration settings I found I was modifying often, so likely to change with future versions as I iron things out. So themes, we would be doing Groovebox, I think. So use the base configuration. This is kind of a nice thing, that you can just write default key bindings in this way. It's interesting, this like super shift X or like super return. I guess for maybe multiple commands, like if you're doing like super shift control A, maybe you do the first three with no commas, and then I'd have to figure that out. Super slash, no, okay. What modules come in here? So packages, we've got some hyperland packages: hypershot, hyperpicker, hypersunset, brightness, CTL, player CTL, gnomes, themes, extra, have you control. Essential system packages cannot be excluded: git, vim, lib, notify, nautilus, Alejandra, Blueberry, Clips, FZF, Zoxide, ripgrep, EZA, FD, curl, and zip, wget, GNU make. Some of these I know what they do. Git, vim, that's fine. Nautilus is, I want to say like gnomes file manager. Lib notify, I imagine, is, I actually am not sure because of the lib, but I kind of would think that that's something to do with notifications. FZF is fuzzy find. Ripgrep is recursive grep or something like this. EZA, FD, curl, and zip, these are just, I think, wget, GNU make. Actually, I don't know about GNU make. I almost feel like that sounds like a compiler kind of thing. But these all sound kind of just like basic commands, or like adding some functionality to bash or terminal. Discretionary packages can be excluded by user, so lazy git, lazy docker, btop, powertop, fast fetch. Don't think I would really need any of those, although btop, powertop, and fast fetch are kind of cool. GUIs, so Chromium, Obsidian, VLC, Signal Desktop. I don't think I would want really any of these. Commercial GUIs, Type4, Dropbox, Spotify. Don't really want any of that. Development tools, GitHub Desktop, GH. Don't really want any of that either. Containers, Docker Compose, FFmpeg. MPEG. Still no. Only allow excluding discretionary packages to prevent breaking the system. Only allow excluding discretionary packages to prevent breaking the system. Okay. 1Password, container default, hyperland, and system. So adding some fonts, I need to do that anyways, just because I want to get some like folder fonts or folder symbols for my NeoVim config. Home Manager, here's actually like seemingly most of the programs. Which makes it feel like I think I could get rid of this. Maybe I actually just undo that and comment it out. I wasn't exactly sure if so my clipboard wasn't working earlier, and it's actually still not working for specifically copying from NeoVim. But that's a NeoVim thing, I'm sure. I'm not sure if including the WL clipboard, Wayland clipboard, actually allowed me to copy things just from terminal to like browser. So it's actually not clear to me. It's not clear to me whether this package did anything. Okay. Some files in here: btop, default, dir-env, fonts, ghosty, get hyperidle, hyperland, hyperlock, hyperpaper, Mako, starship, VS Code, Waybar, Wofi, Zoxide, Z-Shell. I don't know what starship is. This feels like what it is. Cross shell prompt, the minimal, blazing fast, infinitely customizable prompt for any shell. But what does it actually do? Minimal, blazing fast, infinitely customizable prompt for any shell. What does that mean? Fast. It's really, really fast. Customizable, universal, intelligent, installation. Prerequisites. Install. The main point of Starship Prompt is to enhance the user experience of command line interfaces by providing a highly customizable and informative prompt. It aims to make the terminal more visually appealing and informative without sacrificing performance. It provides information at a glance, such as current directory, Git branch, runtime, versions, Kubernetes context, and more. So Rocket on master via Crab version 1.36.0, root in Rocket on master via. So is it kind of like the auto completion and took 4 seconds, took 5 seconds. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I don't necessarily care about that right now. Same with Zoxide, not sure. And Z Shell. I just want Bash, honestly. I don't think that Bash is bad. So this is a little bit of this is a little bit of a thing. Like, should I organize these programs, these extra programs like Waybar, Wofi, Mako into Home Manager, so they're just managed by my home user? What am I really thinking? To some extent, the only thing that I'm thinking is, like, if for some reason I, like, let's say get locked out of my user account, or for some reason have to load into another account, then they won't come loaded by default, which I kind of want it so that the system looks like I've customized it every time I make a new user account. I think for at least me, what I consider to be necessary for like a desktop environment, that's what I want to put into my system config. And then things that are bonuses like NeoVim, that can be, so I know it's in here now as a package, but that can be something that's managed with Home Manager. Like VS Code, this actually is in Home Manager, which I think is good. In that case, I would want something like Vim in my my default. Okay, we'll get rid of NeoVim. We'll put in Vim. God, why does it even matter? Yeah, I feel like which of these actually matters, which of them I'm just thinking about for too long. I don't know what wget is. Command line utility for treating files using various protocols like HTTP, HTTPS, and FTP. It's also known for its ability to download files, recursively mirror websites, and resume interrupted downloads. It's commonly used in Linux. We actually might want wget. So what do I want to put in here? I know there's a lot of thinking about this for like no totally apparent reason. I think it wouldn't be too hard to just like start uncommenting things, start commenting things, and then making it all function. To some extent, I think I just need to do that. One thing that I am thinking about is that, so for things like Waybar, you install Waybar, you launch Hyperland. Waybar's not running in the background from the get-go. So you need to have like a startup script. So when you start up, some script runs in I don't know, bash, and then that loads Waybar. And I saw it somewhere in here. Services.greed. What is that? Okay. Let's see. I'm also, this is actually kind of interesting too. Enable sound with Pipewire, Pulse Audio, Services Pipewire. So what is a Pipewire.jack? Is that like literally my like audio jack? Or is this a special thing? I haven't really tried too many sounds on the laptop because I've been using it through desktop or just without sound, I guess, for the last few days. So I'd have to figure out what a jack server is. Let me just look that up. A jack audio connection kit is a low latency audio server that enables multiple audio applications to share audio data with each other and with audio devices. It acts as a central hub for audio routing and synchronization, allowing for complex audio setups and real-time performance. What applications use a jack server? Like Zoom or what? Okay, I don't care. This is what I've decided. And now I'm just thinking, so I want my environment to load up the same on every user. And do I want them to be able to change the configuration? I think you can maybe override. So any user technically on this laptop would be using the same system settings, and I wonder if you can override those system settings with Home Manager. So like if there was a configuration for, let's say, NeoVim inside of if there was a configuration for NeoVim inside of my config.nix file or associated with it, and I wonder if you can override that with Home Manager. So that's what we're going to look up. Let's just go to Gemini. Yes, the user can override NeoVim settings from a NixOS configuration using Home Manager. The key distinction is that NixOS manages system-wide settings while Home Manager handles user-specific configurations. Okay, then who cares? All right, so let's just start adding shit, right? We're gonna do Waybar. I don't know about Wofi. So I wanted to see GitHub. And I saw Walker in here, which I think is different from, and specifically separate from Wofi. I just saw it too. Just in default. So Walker versus Wofi. Walker and Wofi are both application launchers primarily used in Hyperland Wayland Window Manager, with Wofi being a GTK-based option. Walker is known for its ability to inherit the GTK theme and display application icons directly. Wofi offers customization options and is considered performant. What? 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 Walker automatically adopts the GTK theme, making it visually consistent with other applications. That's kind of nice. Wofi is known for its customizable appearance and behavior. We're gonna look up what a GTK theme is. GTK Plus is a graphical user interface library used by the SpecX applications. One of the cool features of GTK Plus is its support themes. Themes allow you to customize the color and shape of a widget by assigning colors and or pixel map. GTK, or the GIMP toolkit, is a multi-platform toolkit for creating graphical user interfaces, offering a complete set of widgets. GTK is suitable for projects ranging from small one-off tools to complete application suites. Okay. To set GTK themes in NixOS, you can use Home Manager to clearly configure your user environment, including GTK settings. This allows you to specify GTK theme, icon theme, and cursor theme without needing to manually manage configuration files. So... no package found. Okay, one thing that I will say about searching for Nix packages is that I think very frequently get shit like this, where you have GTK3, GTK4, GTK2, and I don't know what I want. So it's hard for me to know, like, explicitly what I'm looking for. I can't tell if this is, like, organized. It's hard to imagine that this is organized by, like, most used to least used. So I imagine, like, okay, D binding and OO wrapper for GTK. Like, this is to use with the D language, or D binding and OO wrapper. OO wrapper, is that object-oriented wrapper for GTK? D binding. Programming. In the context of the D programming language, binding primarily refers to the process of creating interfaces that allow D code to interact with libraries or code written in other languages, most commonly C or C++. That's why I just think, so it's like, is this really the most common usage, is like interacting with D through, interacting with GTK through D? I kind of don't believe that. So I could do this, GTK themes, look for specifically the most up-to-date version, and then go back and retroactively search. So it's like 3 and 4 are maybe the most up to date. GIMP toolkit. So latest stable is 4.18.6. Maybe if I searched for GIMP toolkit, that would come up better. It did not. So unstable. Okay, 4.18.6, this is the most up-to-date one. It's written in C, but has bindings to many other popular languages, such as C++, Python, and C#. Getting this one. Kind of wonder if that just means that I get to use whatever language I want. So like I don't know JavaScript or really C or Perl or Rust or Vala, but I can interact with Python. So would this allow me to do that? Yeah, looks like it would. Okay, so there's a good chance we might do this, so let's put this in here. Packages.gtk4. And which one was the automatic adaptation of that? So Walker automatically adapts to the GTK theme. Rofi is another popular launcher, often used in conjunction with Wayland. Can be benchmarked alongside Walker and Wofi. Toffee is another, or Toffee, for its speed and used with Wayland. Wow. Is that really what it looks like? 'Cause that's kind of sick. Just hit tab and it's just text that goes up onto the screen. I guess you could maybe configure that in some of these other ones, but I hadn't thought about doing that. Tofi supports a fair number of theming options. See the default config, config manage theming. It's based on the box model shown below. So this is kind of crazy. Basically, in 1,000 runs, this started in under 3 microseconds, under 2.5 microseconds each time. Milliseconds? Milliseconds, probably. I wonder how fast Walker or Wofi run. I kind of like the idea of keeping shit as fast as possible. So this is just basically I didn't think that I hit new tab. So this is basically just hit super, open up run, and then go through and just start selecting things that I want. What else would I really want in launcher? So what is offered by Walker, for example, and what's offered by Wofi? So this is obviously graphically much more intensive than Toffee was. Okay, maybe this is actually partly why some of this stuff has to go into Home Manager. If we do Walker, what happens? Wayland native application. Is that true? So maybe it's better to do some of these things through Home Manager, just the suggested installs for the applications themselves. So to environment system packages, we just add inputs.walker.packages.system.default. how do we make a selection? Toffee. Looks like is kind of not really being edited anymore. Is that true? 8 months ago? And Walker 14 hours ago. Okay, we probably use Walker then, huh? What's the last one? Wofi? Change this to Walker. And actually, we're maybe not gonna. So we're maybe not gonna install it through this package, but I'm gonna be right back and then come back and keep on working. Okay. So, let's see how Walker tells us how to install. So we can build from source. Not going to do that if I can avoid it. We can use the package exposed by this flake. So there's a nix.flake in here. And I guess that just means that we do this. So we add inputs.walker.packages.system.default to environment system packages or home packages. I'm kind of not sure. I'm not sure. I'll just say it. I'm not sure that, for example, if I write in here inputs.walker.packages, the angle brackets, I'm going to ignore for the moment. Think that I have to use my own system, and then .default. I'm not sure if that will, for example, read inputs from the flake itself. So let's write sudo. So I know that I have inputs here, and I think it's fine for me to add inputs.walker.url, add this. Let's compare with Henry Sips Omarchi. Okay, so this looks like it's okay, because he doesn't use Walker. Okay, so let's think about it in another way. See what Gemini says. We can see what. So maybe incorporating a Nix flake into system. So you're gonna Nix flake. This ended up being AI anyways. Okay. So okie doke. While that runs, actually it's probably just done. Okay, so all we have to do is just add this, and then in my config I just call Walker. That can't be right. Huh. This is kind of a crazy thing to hear, which is that Home Manager automatically runs systemd user services. So you can just start up. Okay, so using the home manager module exposed by this flake, we add to our flake inputs.walker.url. We add imports. Into your home manager config, and then we configure Walker using some stuff, and then compare. So still have to add it to our flake. Inputs.walker.url. So in inputs we add wonder if I should start making this alphabetical or if it matters. GitHub abens1267 Walker. And then into home manager. We need to add an import. Just compare. So you do just put inputs as it is. That's kind of crazy. and then we run this also. So programs. Walker. And then we can just configure it here. So config. We're just going to copy the example at the moment, see what it looks like when we reboot. So height. Web search prefix. Switcher.prefix. I'm rewriting this all myself just to kind of figure out what is included. In this config. Okay. And then let's go back to config.nix. Sudo nvim conf. Okay, so we should have Walker. I think we will use this GTK package. Delete that. I also want to use Maka and sway lock, sway idle. Maybe actually we use like hyper idle, hyper lock. So hyper lock. We're looking at this versus sway lock, I guess. Okay, fuck it. Let's just try this then. I think I could have added Walker in here, but maybe, yeah, maybe some of these configs won't be the greatest, honestly. Or maybe it would be better to switch them to the home manager later on. So we'll do packages.hyperidle. We've got Waybar, Mako. But let's look up this in the first place. I was actually convinced to use Mako for this just because of the reference. This is like the greatest character I think ever made. So we also have to use the notification daemon that's referencing that. And there's no flake. There's no obvious one. None. We go back. Huh. How's this bundled? Okay, I don't see anything crazy in here, but and I think to some extent maybe, you know, maybe there's some amount of management that Nix packages also does, but let's just ask what this code does. Okay, there's still probably a billion things that we don't know that we need, but we'll need them. So Waybar is one of those things that I feel like could be totally put in Home Manager, not because it's like a good idea to do that, but just because maybe there's going to be some amount of configuration that's easier to access using Home Manager. But I remember that actually there's a whole CSS config in here. So let's see, how does Waybar get built in this. Description, Omarchi, base config. We've got self, Nix packages, hyperland, Nix colors. We should look up also Hyperland and see how it recommends doing some of this. Okay, look the config again, see if Waybar's in here. Go to system packages. Environment packages? What is it? System packages, yeah. Not even listed. So it's not included as a system package. It's specifically, I guess, a home manager package. Oh yeah, what's hyperpaper? Something about wallpapers? I actually don't know if I give a shit about this. I mean, I think it is okay. It's neat, but I don't think I care necessarily about like switching. I'm not writing so hard that I'm gonna. At the moment, I'm not writing so hard that I'm gonna like switch wallpapers and themes just in like one go. Maybe not yet. So I just won't worry about it. Recommended way to get Waybar is what I was thinking. Okay. I don't think I care enough to like actively disagree with some of these things. At the end of the day, I still want just like a configuration that's going to work to some extent. So let's go to home, and let's add in Waybar. It's hard to believe that I don't have to do something like in here we had to add this walker.url. I guess I don't know why that is, honestly. So let's go back to Omarchi Nix. Henry Sip. Okay. Modules, home manager. What's in packages though? What's Hypershot and Hyperpicker? Hyperpicker. Is this for also screenshots? Color picker. Hyper sunset. Brightness. I think I actually do need some of this. So Hyper sunset. Okay, we'll add that. Hyperland packages is an interesting one. Obviously, that's not in my package list at the moment. So let Hyperland packages equal with packages, these things in system packages, all system packages, home packages. I wonder to some extent why this is grouped like this. Just for the viewer? So if I go to NixOS and I look up Hyper Sunset, I can just add it like that. Um, and the other one that I thought would be actually useful was like brightness CTL. And I don't know what some of these other ones would be. Gnome themes extra. Yeah, definitely want this one. And let's see. PA mixer, player CTL, and gnome themes extra. Pulse audio command line mixer. Player CTL, I think, is going to be like a audio player or something. I might actually need that later on, but I'm not going to think about it right now. So there's also probably VU control. What is that? Pulse audio volume control? Not going to worry about that. Gnome themes extra. So that must be in here. So what's the point of this one? Okay. So, right, we didn't even add Waybar, and we're not sure if we need this GTK4. So... I guess one question I have is to some extent like, so maybe this is it. Maybe the reason why. Okay, so, So in my Flake, In my Flake file, I now have a walker.url for inputs. I guess this points to this GitHub account in order to get walker. And it will maybe update if I call update just from this URL specifically, which is a little bit more direct than relying on the Nix packages. On the other hand, Waybar, it says basically just use Nix packages, I think, to some extent. If this is saying, like, this is how you're going to do this, if I just enable Waybar. So let's go home.nix. We're going to also I want to know what wget does, but so walker, we're gonna increase also add this programs Waybar, enable, it's gonna be true. Settings. Main bar equals go into this one and let's see what the Waybar setup is here. This is a temporary hack for light mode themes, GTK. There's actually a lot of this that I do want, but I know that if I just copy and paste it, it's not going to function. So I kind of wonder what there's also a CSS file in here for Waybar. And what's it for? So we'd also enable Mako through just Home Manager. Okay, let me do this. So we're not gonna fuck with this at all for the moment. There's a good chance that we're gonna go back. So this is gonna take forever to get, I think, everything working. But there's a good chance that we're gonna go back and put some configuration into Home Manager for some of these things like Mako, which right now is in my config. And things like hyper lock, hyper land. It's kind of an interesting one. Why is that on enable for Home Manager? Like, what is in NixOS if that's true? Okay, this is gonna take a couple of tries probably. So let's just do this and see what the hell happens, right? Boot. We got an error because I have a typo somewhere. So while calling head, eventually we get down to missing this on line 65 of home.nix. Wait a second. Huh. So in Walker, we've got config ends here. I almost feel like it's not right. It almost feels like it's not right. So where was I looking for Walker? I skipped something. Okie doke. Try it again, and we get another error. This time, undefined variable inputs. That's what I thought was gonna happen. And so why is that? So I think that is in Okay, it's just in home.nix. Inputs is not imported. So inputs is in my flake. And this one says add it to your home manager. So I think it okay, it could be because I didn't this is kind of something that I thought would take care of this to some extent. Special args inherit inputs, so that means that all of these should have inputs which come from here. But of course this file doesn't see anything. Unless I just needed to include it. So how would I do such a big typo, man? So inputs. We added Walker. This is kind of an interesting one. So this is just it? I just need to add inputs here. It's kind of hard to believe. Crushed it. Okay, well, I'm glad that it caught infinite recursion. I thought specifically I didn't. Well, okay, yesterday I was reading about extra args and this module args. And I saw that you could get an infinite recursion with the module args. Obviously didn't figure it out though, so let's see. Okay, this is when it would help to actually have an understanding of how to read this. So let's spend a little bit of time just trying to do that, I guess. When I build at the moment, we just have this undefined variable inputs in my imports. What's imports even trying to do to some extent? This might actually, maybe wasn't supposed to go into home.nix. Maybe it's just supposed to go here. Okay, so it wants me to add imports. The inputs variable is a part of the Nix blah blah blah. Inputs.walker specifically refers to the entire walker flake. Inputs.walker.homemanager modules.default. This is how you navigate through the walker flake to find the specific home manager module you need. The flake's internal structure exposes different parts that you can access. The inputs variable is how you fetch and reference external dependencies. It's a key feature of Nix flakes that makes your configuration self-contained and reproducible. Why it's not recursion? To some extent, that's true. It does declare walker as an input. Modules are loaded, not the other way around. Your home manager configuration imports a module from walker. It doesn't tell walker to import your configuration. Okay, so let's try so actually fuck. Okay, so this actually sounds reasonable. So in Home Manager, where would this be? Where am I importing home.nix here? It's saying that I should have inputs import.home.nix inherit inputs. I thought that to some extent this would kind of do this. Okay, I will do something like this, but I want to figure out what doing this does. So I don't know the best way to So maybe what I need is inherit keyword. Okay, special args. Nix flakes. I almost feel like if I put let this and this in this, I almost feel like that would work. I'm just curious why my special args is not being read, I guess. So where does this one end? Where does this one end? All the way down here. So how come... Yeah, so how come my Special args provides arguments to your NixOS system modules, not directly to your home manager modules. The home manager module you're importing is evaluated in a separate context, which is why special args does not automatically pass inputs variable into your home.nix file. So NixOS configuration. In flake.nix, you define a NixOS system that processes your module list. Special args equals inherit inputs makes the inputs variable available to all the modules in the list, including .config and home manager. .nixos.home manager. Home manager module is a module that configures the home manager service on your NixOS system. It doesn't directly evaluate your home.nix file. Instead, it takes a configuration, sets up the user environment accordingly. Disconnect. The home.nix file is a home manager module, not a NixOS module. It is evaluated by home manager itself, not the NixOS system builder. While my flake tells home manager where to find your user configuration, it doesn't pass the inputs variable directly into that file's scope. Okay, let's just explain this also. So I'm a little bit confused before I see what the thing says. I've got an attribute home manager .users.own, and that's equal to the thing that's weird to me is the inputs colon, because colon to me means function. Then I import a whole file, which is going to be, I guess, a home manager module, and then giving another curly brace inherit inputs is just strange. That's fine. Inputs. This defines a lambda function. Oh, okay. It's an anonymous function. And why is it anonymous? It's because, let's think. So, inputs is the only argument that goes into the function, I guess. And because we didn't give it explicitly how would you normally write a function? I guess a normal function would be something like getting a little bit hungry, so this is going to be a little bit rough. But I guess a normal function is like function equals and then curly braces with arguments colon, and that defined the name of the function, and then you have to return some attribute set, and this way so I think that's the syntax. So couple things. One, we gotta start charging. Two, let's go to nix.dev, sure. And let's just look for function. So this was kind of the format that I was thinking, but these are all okay. So this is going to be some function. Inputs is going to be the argument. When it evaluates this function, it automatically provides it with the inputs that were defined in your top level. And so then it's going to essentially call import And then, all right, so this is in the flake. Well, I'm kind of curious now what the import call does. That must be itself a function. All right, I believe it. Now we'll go to and we'll put in inputs, and then we'll try this again. Okay, I'm gonna eat, figure this out in a minute. All right, I'll be right back. Okay. So, done eating lunch, but haven't resolved the issue, but this looks promising. Tells me that I should learn what's going on a little bit better, but I think I still could have ran into errors like this at some point. Debugging with AI is going well, so let's see. The error happens when Nix tries to evaluate a module argument named inputs. So this is a crazy long stack trace in my mind. Although it is the whole thing, so try to see even where Gemini sees this. So I see this, right? So like from call site while calling the LM at, while evaluating the module argument inputs in this. Okay, so that was just like the previous line. This happens precisely when it tries to process line 22. Right. This is the whole thing that we're trying to resolve. This means the system is trying to give your home.nix module the inputs argument. But to do so, it needs to evaluate a part of the configuration, imports equals blah blah blah, that also uses inputs. Let me just try to understand this. So, this means the system is trying to give your home.nix module the inputs argument. So where in this does that happen? So we have special args inherit inputs. And then we've got import.home.nix. And then if I go into home.nix, I think the inherit key with this inputs as an argument here says that like, oh, whatever arguments I have up here for inputs, give them to this module. Okay. But in order to do this, it needs to evaluate a part of the configuration, imports, that also uses this inputs. The issue comes down to how you're telling Home Manager about your configuration. My current code uses input to force Nix to immediately read and evaluate the home.nix file, turning it into a function value. So this could be true if I just ignored the imports. But I don't know how Home Manager functions. So there's a chance also that that just is not true. So actually, okay, so in this one it actually just has it. All right. Okie doke. Right, so that didn't help. Come on. Okay. Okay, so to build my configuration, the Nix module system needs to evaluate your home.nix file. Yes. To evaluate this file, it must first figure out what other modules it depends on by looking at the imports list. My home.nix file has this line, import some crap, which to process requires that Nix knows what inputs is. Inputs is provided as a special argument to the function in home.nix, which is the main module. Here's the loop. To evaluate the imports list inside of home, Nix needs the inputs argument. But to figure out which arguments to pass to home, it needs to evaluate the imports list. Okay, I think that, I mean, there's something that is just like this is into my home manager config makes me just think just add it to my flakes. Just add it to my flakes. Not home.nix. Or actually I've never actually looked in here, so I didn't check to see if I have like a home manager. Or Nix. When I was setting up home manager, it wasn't clear to me. Oh. Okay, fuck it. We're gonna close out of some of these things. So I kind of want to try this. So use home manager args. So let's do flake.nix. Actually, I want to undo that. Oh shit. Wait, I thought I deleted this. Did I undelete it? Oh wait, shit. I know why. This did work, so I'm leaving it. And what I was just fucked up about was this isn't even the console that I was in. So let's do okay, this actually looks good. Just like it looks functional. So imports. We're gonna import that. We're also gonna import this inputs walker home manager. This is totally the right solution, I think. And then we're gonna delete this. And I think that I can delete this also. So we try to rebuild. Oh, didn't need that. It's gonna work. Oh my god. I'm just stupid. So apparently my home.nix file is a home manager module. That's like something that's maybe useful to actually read about. This installed 2 gigs of stuff. It's kind of crazy. I want to close out also of like all of this, and in the meantime we can just go to like Nix manual, see if there's something about. Let's just see what's in here for the time being. I kind of don't think that home manager is like given God's grace by this NixOS manual. I didn't see this. Flicks were inspired by Shea Levy's NixCon 2018 talk. The RFC was closed without conclusion, and some fundamental issues are not yet resolved. The original implementation introduced regressions in the release, breaking some stable functionality without a major revision increment. Copying sources to the Nix store prior to evaluation adds a significant performance penalty, especially for large repositories such as Nix packages. New Nix users were and still are encouraged by various individuals to adopt Flakes despite there being no stability guarantees and no timeline to conclude the experiment. True. I felt like, genuinely, you couldn't find any resources on Nix that didn't include Flakes. When I was trying to just edit my config, it seemed like it should have been easy to have like a basic config, go through Nix packages environment, and just call to add them into the Nix store or to get a working build going. And it didn't seem easy at all. And everything that I kind of wanted to experiment with was used by people or managed by people using Nix Flakes. And so like even a lot of today's packages, right? Like how do you get this thing? You use a Nix Flake. You take Nix Flake and you import this using Home Manager, these are both features that are just I think that they don't necessarily need to be a default in the Nix ecosystem. Like it seemed like if NixOS was just set up like a slight bit different, then Flakes and Home Manager would be like somewhat obsolete. But because of the like little thing in the beginning, maybe Flakes and Home Manager now are like a critical part of the ecosystem, which is just what it is. Nothing necessarily bad about that. So like, yeah, I mean, as of 2023, 84% of respondents rely on experimental features, aka Flakes probably. I wish that I had ran this with like a verbose tag now. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But it's running. So I think it might just take a while. Nothing has changed over here, which is like, I actually liked it when before switching to Flakes and Home Manager. The build process, like it just spewed out as it was building everything from the store. I kind of liked that. Maybe there's just too much once you start using Home Manager or something. I have no idea. Flakes in the Nix command suite bring multiple improvements that are relevant for both software users and package authors. The new command line interface together with Flakes makes dealing with existing packages significantly more convenient. The constraints imposed on Nix or on Flakes strengthen reproducibility by default and enable some performance improvements when interacting with a large Nix package repository. Flake references allow for easier handling of version upgrades for existing packages or project dependencies. The Flake schema helps with composing Nix projects from multiple sources in an orderly fashion. At the same time, Flakes have fundamental architectural issues and a number of problems with the implementation, and there's no coordinated effort to resolve them systematically. What are the fundamental issues? Oh, just this? So I guess this is an example. This is the first time actually that it's taken like any significant amount of time to actually build my system. And this is actually the first time that I'm using a Nix Flake. I'm not totally foreign to things running for a long time, but it could be nerve-wracking in some ways. You know, when you run a program for like 3 days straight and you don't know if it is going to terminate or not. Man, actually, it's kind of crazy. Because this is all Walker, right? One hour and 30 minutes, huh? For just packaging, building Chromium. So I just fucked up by not including this, huh? I don't necessarily trust, I don't necessarily trust random. I don't necessarily trust just like a cache online. Even though, you know, we were randomly pulling in packages from sources that we don't understand. Yeah, I'm back into the business of thinking, what's the point of a Nix Flake? I mean, I think that yeah, I'm actually not sure what the point is. Not that this isn't like a convenient. I have no idea. I want to say not that this isn't like a convenient method for downloading things. I just Hmm. Okay. Well. Don't know how long this is going to take. Hmm. I guess I'll just end it, and then we'll have this. We'll have this build next time, potentially. There's no way Jonah's going to give any actual understandable answer, because it's obviously system dependent. I'm just curious if there's like any information online of people complaining about how long it takes. Okay, I think, yeah, we should just expect this to take a couple hours. Yeah. Okay, I'm done then. And next time there's gonna be a whole new build, I guess, in the background. Thanks for joining me. And I guess I'll see you around.